What we have studied? What do you mean by water and where we use water? And what is the use of water in daily activities? So today topic is where do we get water from? हमें पानी कहाँ कहाँ से मिलता है? Where do you get that you use? Some of you may say we draw water from a river, spring, pond, well, or a hand pump. So where we get water from? River, from the spring, from the pond, and from well and hand pump. So these are sources of water. So we get water from the river or spring or pond and well and hand pump. Some other might say we get water from taps. So some says that we get water from taps. So see, these are taps. So we get water from taps. Have you ever wondered where water in the taps comes from? ये जो पानी जो taps में आ रहा है, where the water in the taps come from? So the water that we get from taps, it is also drawn from the lake or river. जो भी हमारा टैप्स में पानी आता है वो भी कहाँ से निकालते हैं हम? लेक से या रिवर से या वेल से. So then it is supplied through the network of pipes. So these are network of pipes. So these are supplied from the river through these pipes and then to the tank and then to the taps. So this is a network of pipe. In this way we get water. So what are the sources of water? River, pond, spring, river, spring, pond, well, and a hand pump. And where we get water? We get from the taps. So these are the taps from which we get water. And where the water in the taps come from? It comes from the lake or river or a well. And how it comes in our house? Through network of pipes. हमारा जो रिवर से नेट यहाँ से पाइप जो है हमारे हाउस में कनेक्ट करके देन टैंक में कनेक्ट करके देन आफ्टर दिस it is then connected to the tap. So in this way water comes in our taps. So what are the sources of water? River, spring, pond, well, and a hand pump. And how water comes in taps? Water comes in taps from the lake or a river or a well. And how it comes? It comes through network of pipes. As shown in the figure 614.2, water comes in our house through a network of pipes. Each of us may be getting water into our homes in different way. But finally, all of us get water from the same source, such as water from the same source, ponds, lakes, river and wells. हमारे घर में जो पानी आने का अलग अलग तरीका हो सकता है, but वो सेम ही सोर्स से आता है. या तो वो पॉन्ड से आएगा या लेक से आएगा या रिवर से या वेल से. The source is same. The ways may be different, but the source is same. So the ways may be different, but the source is same, either ponds, either lakes, or the wells. So the source is same, the way can be different, but the source is same. We have discussed some of the sources of water. Where does the water come from to fill these ponds, lakes, rivers and well? So what are the sources of water? River, pond, so what are the sources of water? Spring, pond, river, well, hand pump. And how water is supplied in our house? Through network of pipes. Through network of pipes, the water is supplied in our homes. Then we get water from the taps. So Bhujo wants you to imagine a day in your life when water supply to the taps is not available and you have to fetch it yourself from a far away place. Would you use the same amount of water as on any other day? So Bhujo wants imagine a day when water supply is not available and you have to labor hard for to supply water and you have to go a far place to carry water. So imagine a day when supply of water is not available. एक दिन इमेजिन करो जब पानी की सप्लाई हमारे टैप से नहीं आ रही और हमें पानी लेने के लिए बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ रही है और पानी लेने के लिए हमें बहुत दूर तक जाना पड़ रहा है. You have to fetch it yourself from a far place. Would you use the same amount of water as on another day? No. You would not use the same amount of water on the same day. क्या हम पहले भी पानी यूज करते थे जब हमारे पास शॉर्टेज थी और हमें पानी लेने के लिए दूर तक जाना पड़ता था? क्या सेम अमाउंट हम यूज करेंगे? नो, क्योंकि हमें वो उसमें बहुत लेबर करना पड़ा वहां को पानी दूर से पानी लाने के लिए. तो हम जो सेम अमाउंट ऑफ वाटर यूज नहीं करेंगे. वी विल नोट द सेम अमाउंट ऑफ वाटर एट दैट डे. So if we do a labor, then we will use the less amount of water. Do you know that about 2/3 of the earth is covered with water? This is our earth, and on the 2/3 of the earth is covered with water. So it's on the 2/3 part of this earth, it is covered with water. So it is covered with water. So 2/3 part of the earth is covered with water. And where this water exists? This water is in either in oceans and seas. So either it is oceans or seas. The water in the oceans and seas has many salt dissolved in it. So what is the disadvantage of this water? It has many salt dissolved in it. So we cannot use it for the drinking purposes. And we also cannot use it for the domestic purposes. And we can also cannot use for the agriculture and industrial use. So as we know, in the 2/3 part of the earth, on the earth surface, 2/3 part of the earth is water, and it has the water exists in the ocean or seas. And where this water exists, either in the ocean or seas, either it is in ocean or seas. So what are the disadvantage of this water? It has many salt dissolved in it. As we know, water in the ocean and water also in the seas, they has many salt dissolved in it. And the water is saline. जो भी पानी ओशियन और सीज में होता है उसमें सोल्ट होता है और वो हम पानी पीने के लिए यूज नहीं कर सकते डायरेक्ट, because the water is saline. Saline means salty. So the water is saline means salty. So the water is saline means salty. And we can't use it for the drinking or agriculture and domestic purposes. You might have heard the famous line of the poem, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. written by the S.T. Coleridge in 1798. तो एक फेमस पोएम है, water water everywhere nor any drop to drink. हमारे आसपास पानी पानी है, बट nor any drop to drink, और पीने के लिए एक ड्रॉप भी पानी नहीं है. बिकॉज ओशियन और सीज में हमारा बहुत सारा पानी होता है, बट इट इज नॉट सुटेबल फॉर ड्रिंकिंग. सो it is a famous poem, water water everywhere not any water to drink. So there are so many water, but we have no any drop to drink. Here the poet has described the plight of sailors on a ship lost in the ocean. So the poet is describing the plight of sailors on a ship. Ship में वो जो खो गए sailors lost in the ocean. उसके आसपास बिल्कुल पानी पानी है ocean में, लेकिन पानी पीने के लिए नहीं है. Yet ocean plays an important role in supplying the water that we use. As we know, ocean water is not suitable for drinking, but it plays very important role in supplying the water we use. So the water we use in the ocean, it has greater advantage. Do you find this surprising? So this is very surprising. Ocean water is not suitable for drinking, but it plays a very important role in supplying the water that we use. जो हमारा जो ओशियन के अंदर पानी होता है वो सोल्टी होता है, वो पानी पीने के लिए सुटेबल नहीं है, लेकिन वो फिर उसको सप्लाई करने में बहुत important role play करता है. Do you find this surprising? This is very surprising. After all, the water that we use is not salty. So the water we use in the daily life, it is not salty. Many of us live in places far away from the ocean. So as we know, many of us live in places far away from the ocean. So many people, they live far from the ocean. हम ocean से बहुत दूर रहते हैं. Does the water supply in these places also depend on the ocean? So the water we get, is it also depend on the ocean? And how does the ocean water reach ponds, lakes, rivers, and wells which supply us water? And how come the water from these sources is not saline anymore? जो भी हम घर में पानी पीते हैं, क्या वो सोल्टी होता है? नो. और क्या जो अगर हम जो अगर जिसमें हम ओशियन के प्लेस के आसपास नहीं रहते, वो पानी क्या ओशियन से आता है? वो पानी हमारे पास कैसे सप्लाई होता है? We will study it. So that is where the water cycle comes in. So the water cycle role plays a very important role in converting these water to the drinking water. So how this will convert? So we will do this process in the water cycle. So this is disappearing trick of water. So there are so many clothes drying on a cloth line. So they in the figure 14.4. There are so many clothes on a cloth line. How many times have you noticed that water spilled on a floor dries up after some time? कई बार तुमने नोटिस किया है, जो फ्लोर पे जो भी पानी पड़ा होता है वो सूख जाता है, काफी बहुत जल्दी सूख जाता है. The water seems to disappear. वाटर बिल्कुल disappear हो जाता है. Similarly, water disappears from the wet clothes as they dry up. In the figure 15.4, 14.4, we are drying the clothes, and when we drying these clothes in the sunlight, the water disappear. जैसे ही wet clothes से पानी जो है disappear हो जाता है, तो ये हमारे कपड़े सूख जाते हैं. तो water from the wet roads, rooftops, and few and other places, so water from the wet roads, rooftops, and a few other places also disappear after the rain. When rain comes, the water is deposited on the roads, on the rooftop, any another places. It is deposited. जब बारिश आती है तो पानी हमारा डिपॉजिट हो जाता है रोड पे, रूफटॉप पे. जैसे सनलाइट आती है वो वाटर कहाँ जाता है? These water disappear. So where these water go? These water disappear. Where this water go? These water disappear. Do you remember activity 6 in the chapter number 5, in which water with the salt dissolved in it was heated? What we find as we discussed the activity number 6 in the chapter number 5, what was that activity? We take the salty water, and this is salty water, and if we kept it in the sunlight, then the water disappear, and in the this, what is remaining in this? Salt remain in this, and water comes out, water disappear. जब एक बाउल में अगर हम सोल्टी वाटर रखते हैं सनलाइट में, तो हमारा पानी जो इवेपोरेट हो जाता है और क्या बच जाता है हमारे पास? सोल्ट. So what did we find? Salt. The water evaporated, and what is remaining? Salt. This activity gives us an idea on heating. Water changes into its vapor. From this activity, what we have found, when we heat the water, then it changes to the vapor. When we heat the liquid, so when we heat this liquid, suppose this is our liquid, and when we heat this liquid, so what is remaining? Then this water is converted into water vapor. Then this will convert into water vapor. So then this water will convert into the water vapor. So we also realize from this activity, water vapor does not carry away the salt with it. Water vapor so formed become a part of the air and cannot usually be seen. और ये वाटर वेपर कहाँ चल जाते हैं? हमारे एयर में चल जाते हैं, और वाटर वेपर को हम we cannot be seen. We cannot see the water vapor. We cannot see the water vapor. It also found that heating is essential to convert water into water vapor. And what is this phenomena? This phenomena is called evaporation. So this phenomena is called evaporation. When we heat liquid, it will change into the water vapor, and this process is called evaporation. So this process is called evaporation. So due to these phenomena, due to evaporation, our clothes dries. So due to these evaporation, floor dries. So due to this evaporation, water is converting into water vapor. However, we have seen the water changes into water vapor. Also, water from the fields, roads, rooftop, and other land areas. We also discussed in chapter number 5 to obtain salt. For water from the sea is left in the shallow pits to let the water evaporate. So what we have discussed in chapter number 5, when we take salty water and then if we do the heating, then it will change into the salt. जब हम salty water को अगर हम धूप में रखते हैं, then this will convert into the salt, and where water comes, it evaporates. So it evaporates. So what do you mean by evaporation? The process of the process of changing liquid into water vapor is called evaporation. So, which things are required to evaporate? Heat. Which things are required to evaporate? Heat. So, heat is required to evaporate. So, heat is required to evaporate. So, which things are required to evaporate? Heat. So, next is activity number 2. Take two similar plates. So we are taking two plates in the figure 14.5. We are taking plates. This is our plate. So these are two plates. One is kept in the sunlight and second is in the shadow. First is in sunlight and second is in the shadow. दो प्लेट लेंगे हम, उसमें पानी रखेंगे. एक को हमने डायरेक्ट सनलाइट में रखना है और एक को छाया में रखना है. So what will happen? Take two similar plates, place one of a plate in the sunlight and keep the other under shade. So one is kept in the sunlight and other is under shade. Now pour equal amount of water in each of the plate. दोनों प्लेट में equal amount of water डालना है. And you can use a cap of bottle to measure water. So you can use the 10 cap of bottle, you can use the 20 cap of bottle to measure the water. Make sure that the water does not spill over. हमें याद रखना है कि water जो है spill over नहीं करना चाहिए, बिखरना नहीं चाहिए, बहना नहीं चाहिए. वो याद रखना कि बिल्कुल बहना नहीं है, पानी को बिखरने नहीं देना है हमें. Observe that the two plates after 50 minutes. So we will observe these after 50 minutes. Does the water seems to disappear? Is the water this seems to disappear? From which plate does it disappear first? So in which plate did this disappear? It disappeared in the plate 1. What is the source of heat for this evaporation? Sunlight. So what is the source of this heat from for this evaporation? Sunlight. During the daytime, sunlight falls on the water in ocean, rivers, lakes and ponds. जो हमारे दिन के टाइम जो सनलाइट जो है ओशन पे डालते हैं हम, रिवर पे, लेक्स पे, ponds पे, and the fields and land areas also receive sunlight. Fields भी sunlight receive करते हैं, ocean भी, river भी, lakes भी. As a result, the water from these places continuously changes into vapor. So these all are changing into water vapor. However, the salt dissolved in the water are left behind. So what is remaining? Salt. When in the salty water, water evaporates. What is remaining? Salt. In activity 2, did you find that water also disappeared from the plate 2? तो दोनों ही प्लेट्स में हमने कौन से प्लेट्स में जो हमारा इवेपोरेशन फास्टर होगा, इस प्लेट में हमारा फर्स्ट में जो प्लेट हमारी सनलाइट के अंदर रखी हुई है, जो प्लेट इस प्लेट में हमारा इवेपोरेशन फास्टर होगा. Why it is faster? Because sunlight is needed for evaporation and the plate which is kept in the shade also evaporate. जो इस प्लेट में हमारा वाटर रखा हुआ है, सेकंड वाली प्लेट में शेड में जो है हमारा, उसमें भी ये शेड में जो वाटर रखा हुआ है उसमें भी हमारा पानी इवेपोरेट होगा. Why evaporates? Because when though have taken more time, does the heat from the sunlight reach there? Yes. Sunlight reach also in the plate 2. Yes, during the daytime, all the air surrounding us gets heated. जो हमारी दिन के टाइम जो सारी की सारी एयर है वो बिल्कुल गर्म हो जाती है और ये गर्म पानी यहाँ से इवेपोरेशन की वजह से ये जो आसपास की जो हमारी एयर है यहाँ पे ये भी वार्म हो जाती है और ये यहाँ की वार्म जो है इसमें आती है और यहाँ से भी पानी इवेपोरेट होगा. तो फर्स्ट प्लेट में भी पानी इवेपोरेट होगा एंड सेकंड प्लेट में भी पानी इवेपोरेट होगा, बट इवेपोरेशन इज फास्टर इन evaporation is faster in this plate. This evaporation is faster in this plate because it is kept under sunlight. So on which factor evaporation depends? The amount of light. If the amount of sunlight is greater, then evaporation will be faster. जितनी ज्यादा हमारी सनलाइट होगी उतनी ज्यादा evaporation होगी. So evaporation depends on the amount of sunlight or heat. So during the daytime, so this warm air provides heat for the evaporation of water in the shade. So as a result, water vapor get continuously added to the air, and evaporation it is a very slow process. So it takes more time to evaporation of water. So it is very slow process. So that's why we rarely notice that the low soak from the bucket full of water in the sunlight. In the sunlight, evaporation takes place faster. So you have to remember, in sunlight, evaporation takes place faster. So evaporation is faster in the sunlight. Or heating water on a burner, its evaporation takes place faster. If we do the more heat, then the evaporation becomes faster. Is there any other process through which water vapor gets transferred into air? तो इवेपोरेशन में क्या होता है, सारी की सारी जो हमारी एयर सारा वाटर है वो कहाँ डिपोजिट हो रहा है, हमारा एयर. तो एयर के अंदर वाटर कहाँ से आ रहा है? By the process of evaporation. So where water comes in the air? To the process of evaporation. Evaporation process से हमारा सारा water कहाँ आ रहा है? एयर में. And what is the another process of getting water into the air? Second process is transpiration. Second process is transpiration. So what do you mean by transpiration? So first process is evaporation. And what do you mean by evaporation? When the process of changing water into water vapor is called evaporation. You have learned in the chapter number 7 that plants need water to grow. चैप्टर नंबर 7 में हमने पढ़ा है कि प्लांट्स को ग्रो करने के लिए क्या चाहिए? वाटर. Plants use a part of this water to prepare food and retain some of it in their different parts. So when the plants, suppose this is our plant. Suppose this is plant. Suppose this is plant, and this is our leaves. And these take water from these roots, and this water is used by these plants to prepare their food, and another is remaining part of the water is released by the plants into air. So ये जो इसकी plants की जो leaves होती हैं, ये water जो है release करती हैं by the process of transpiration. So by the process of transpiration, it releases water. So the leaves of the plant, they release water into air by the process of transpiration. Water vapor enters the air through the process of evaporation and transpiration. So you have to remember, two processes are required. First is evaporation. First process is called evaporation. First is evaporation, and second is transpiration. Second is transpiration. जो दो प्रोसेस है हमारे, जिसमें पानी हमें एयर में लाना है, पानी एयर में लाने के एयर में वाटर कैसे आएगा, या तो इवेपोरेशन से या ट्रांसपिरेशन से। ट्रांसपिरेशन क्या होते हैं, जो हमारी लीव्स होती हैं, लीव्स जो पानी रिलीज करती हैं बाय द प्रोसेस ऑफ ट्रांसपिरेशन, which we have discussed in the chapter number 7. What do you mean by transpiration and what do you mean by evaporation, and which things are required to enter water into the air? Which process are required? कौन कौन से दो प्रोसेस हैं जिससे एयर में पानी ऐड होता है? फर्स्ट प्रोसेस इज इवेपोरेशन and second process is, first is evaporation and second is transpiration. So I am revising the lecture. So what are the sources of water? So what are the sources of water? First is river, second is spring, third is pond, fourth is well and hand pump. So these are the sources of water. And where we get water? We get from the taps. And where water is supplied through the taps? Through the network of pipes. Through the network of pipe, it is supplied in our house. It is supplied in our house. Through the network of pipe, the water is supplied in our house. So ways may be different. हमारे घर में पानी आने का तरीका अलग हो सकता है, but the main source is pond, lakes, rivers and wells. So next is, imagine a day when water supply is not available. So you is the water used by on that day is same? No. We will use less water if you do work hard to carry it from far places. So next is, this is our earth. About 2/3 part of the earth, about 2/3 part of the earth is covered with water. But on the earth there is a shortage of water. Why there is shortage of water? Because in the ocean, mostly this water is in ocean and seas, and but the water in the ocean and seas is salty. It is saline. Saline means salty. It is salty. So it is salty. So the water in this is very salty. And if we can't drink this water, and so you have read the famous poem lines, water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. जो एक सेलर्स जिसका जहाज गुम हो गया, शिप जो गुम हो गया है ओशियन में, उसके आसपास पानी है, बट दे हैव नॉट एनी ड्रॉप टू ड्रिंक बिकॉज ocean water is not suitable for drinking. So how will you convert this water into the drinking water? We will evaporate. And how will you obtain salt? अगर पानी को, अगर हमने सोल्टी वाटर को हमने इसको हीट देने से पानी इवेपोरेट हो जाएगा, एंड हम लास्ट में क्या बच जाएगा? सोल्ट. And this process is called evaporation. So this process is called evaporation. And what are disappearing trick of water? As we know, clothes in the cloth line, they dries up when we put in the sunlight, and the water spilled on a floor dries up. Why these dry up? Because of the evaporation. Because of the process evaporation, the water is converted into water vapor. So these all water is converted into the water vapor. So these all water is converting into water vapor. So what is the phenomena of evaporation? So the process of converting water into water vapor is called evaporation. and on which factor evaporation depends? Heat. जितनी ज्यादा हीट होगी, जितना ज्यादा टेम्परेचर होगा, उतनी ही ज्यादा इवेपोरेशन होगी. और नेक्स्ट हमारी एक्टिविटी 2 क्या है? इसमें हम 2 प्लेट्स लेंगे, दोनों में इक्वल अमाउंट ऑफ वाटर लेंगे एंड फर्स्ट प्लेट में फर्स्ट प्लेट को हमने कहाँ रखा? सनलाइट में. एंड सेकंड प्लेट को हमने कहाँ रखा है? शेड में. फर्स्ट प्लेट को हमने सनलाइट में, सेकंड को हमने शेड में. तो कौन से में, किस प्लेट में इवेपोरेशन फास्टर होगी? फर्स्ट प्लेट में. इस प्लेट में इवेपोरेशन फास्टर होगी. और सेकंड में भी इवेपोरेशन होगी या नहीं होगी? यस, सेकंड में भी इवेपोरेशन होगी बट लेस होगी. और कैसे होगी इवेपोरेशन? जो सनलाइट की जो हीट है, इसकी सनलाइट की हीट जो यहाँ पे सारी की सारी जो हीट है, हल्की तो कुछ अमाउंट जो हीट जो है यहाँ पे भी ट्रांसफर हो जाती है. जब जो सनलाइट में, जो अगर डे टाइम में सारी कुछ सनलाइट जो है यहाँ भी ट्रांसफर हो जाती है, देन वाटर ऑल्सो इवेपोरेट फ्रॉम द सेकेंड प्लेट. In the plate kept in the shade, they also evaporate the water, but it takes more time as compared to the plate that was kept in the sunlight. So evaporation depends on which factor evaporation depends? Evaporation depends on the temperature. So evaporation, it is a very slow process. So evaporation of water, it is a very slow process. And on which factor it is depend? It depends on the heat. And what are the another process? The loss of water by the plant, it is called transpiration. So it is called transpiration. So loss of water by the plants, it is called transpiration. So what are the ways of adding water to the environment? Air में पानी लाने के कौन कौन से दो तरीके हैं? First evaporation